of doing a Kickstarter just for a reprint, because that just feels like a little bit like a cash grab. I
Yep.
like what I if I had a nickel for every time I said this, but I like what Jamie Stegmaier does. He's
I
been
hear that phrase a lot all over the
oh my
internet.
god, yeah,
I don't
he's
know
so
Jamie. Can we talk about Jamie for a second? Should I know Jamie?
Jamie designed Tuscany.
Right.
I'm sorry, Viticulture, Tuscany, and Euphoria
Okay.
are his games. Tuscany, obviously, being the expansions, you should say,
Right.
for Viticulture. But Jamie is a good game designer, and he's a very good game designer. But he is also amazing when it comes to running a Kickstarter campaign. And I don't mean to sound like cynical in that respect, like, oh, he's better at one than the other, because running a Kickstarter campaign is really, really hard, and
Right.
he's blazed a lot of trail. Like he's taken a lot of the lumps for us, and he's said these are a bunch of best practices to do. Obviously, there's no single way to do it, and I think that's one thing that a lot of new Kickstarter creators get hung up on. They say, what's the best way to do this? Well, there are some best practices, but you can't give advice that works for everyone.
Sure.
But what Jamie does is really good. Like Jamie has talked a lot about stretch goals, that don't offer. By the way, there's an ice cream truck that's headed down my street, so you might hear like the ice cream truck pass by. So.
Then I'll salivate like Pavlov's dog.
And so will all your listeners. So there we go. So Jamie, he talks about how you shouldn't offer stretch goal rewards that add exclusive gameplay that nobody else will get. I know
Right.
that's done a lot in the miniatures world, but in the board game world, that tends to be frowned upon, and with good reason. So no exclusives. Jamie's very against early birds, as am I.
Agreed.
The way Jamie puts it is something that I strongly agree with, that your Kickstarter is an early bird. The whole Kickstarter is an early bird.
Right.
Because once the Kickstarter ends, what we do is we put up a pre-order page, and the pre-order costs a little bit more. So like, for example, with the networks, it was $35 with free shipping to the US. And then once the pre-order started, it was $35 with $10 shipping to the US.
Right.
So you can still get it, and you actually get all the Kickstarter rewards also, but you have to pay $10 shipping now.
Sure.
And to be honest, I'll be totally honest, in retrospect, I should have charged at least $40 instead of $35.
Okay.
Because I came in under the impression that the MSRP was going to be $45, and now the MSRP is $50. So
wow.
$35 was an incredible deal, especially when you factor in the extra Kickstarter, the extra stretch goal cards, which are going to be available at retail also. And again, that's another Stegmaier thing, where if you have stretch goal cards, like you make them available at retail also. Like everybody can buy them, everybody gets it. But the nice thing about Kickstartering it is you get it in one package for one low price.
Right.
Whereas people who find out about it later, well, they can still get it. They just have to go a couple of different, like in my case, maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll be available at the BGG store, or maybe they'll buy it from me at a convention.
Right.
But it's going to be available, and people can pick it up. So that's Jamie Stegmaier. So I mentioned Jamie Stegmaier's name.
You were saying
right.
you love what
Yes,
he does, and yeah.
With pre-orders. So that's with the way he runs campaigns for reprints now. So the one disclaimer about Jamie's advice, and Jamie's advice is very, very good. The one grain of salt I would offer is that Jamie has a very good reach now. And I don't want to say that anything he does is a guaranteed success, because that's never true.
Right.
But there's things that he can do that a new creator cannot. So for one thing, for example, is the question of should you cross-promote your Kickstarter campaign? And Jamie says no. He doesn't feel comfortable cross-promoting, and he advises new creators to not cross-promote. And by cross-promote, I mean like in your updates, mention another campaign in your email, and that's usually quid pro quo. Like, I'll mention your campaign in my update if you mention my campaign in your update. Mm-hmm. And that's a common practice. And he doesn't like that. He feels that that's sort of selling out to your backers. So I did cross-promote during Bad Medicine. I stopped cross-promoting for the networks, and I'm probably not going to do cross-promotion anymore.
Okay.
And so I feel like I'm at a point now where I have enough of a fan base that I don't that like I have something to lose now. Like at the start of the Bad Medicine campaign, it was my first Kickstarter campaign. I didn't feel like I had much to lose,
Right.
like this was my first thing and I was going to experiment with it. And when I did the updates, I did them in a very careful way. Like I only update. I only send updates like once every 3 days or so, about 2 updates a week. I see some creators who update every single day, and I find that extremely annoying. Whereas there are other creators who only send an update like once every 2 weeks when the campaign is running, and I don't think that's good. Once the campaign finishes and you're in production, my updates fall to about once a month, and I try to warn people about that, and the reason is there's just no news comes much more slowly, and we're all in the passenger seat now. Like I can't really. A lot of the point of the updates is to drive people into action, and there's just no action to really take once the game is at the printer. Like it's just a matter of updating people and saying. And the most recent update I did was after 5 weeks, and it was just to say, "Hey everyone, the game's still at the printer. Come see me at PAX East." That's it.
Right.
But those updates are still very, very important because backers need to know that you still care about the game and you're still involved in the game. You're still there. You haven't run off with their money. Like backers really need to hear that. And as a backer, I want to hear that because I back campaigns also. So anyway, back to Jamie. I know this is a long-winded thing.
That's okay. So we're here to ramble, buddy. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about.
So let me just unspool back from what I was talking about. So Jamie was he says, no, don't ever do it. I say if you're a new creator, you can get away with it, but don't spam people with updates. Pick stuff that you feel is relevant. Like don't cross-promote to a campaign that you think is not useful or not interesting to them. Like I had one person who made these sort of button-up things for shoes to like tie your shoelaces so you never had to tie your shoelaces again. And he asked if we could cross-promote, and I said there's no overlap between my audience and your audience. I don't think that this will work as a cross-promotion. So that happens every once in a while. But once you get up to a certain size, I mean, for me, I don't cross-promote anymore. And I feel like I have enough of an audience that I want to really, what's the best word? Cultivate the audience. And I now it's just as important to keep someone as to bring someone new in.
Sure.
I mean, that's just as important. So churn becomes important to me also. Churn being the industry term of how many people are leaving your subscription base, and there's going to be churn. You can never get zero churn, but the idea is always have more people coming in than people who are leaving. That's all. So finally getting to this point that I was going to make about what I like that Jamie does. So Jamie does this thing where he uses a pre-order system called Celery. And he'll start a Celery campaign instead of a Kickstarter campaign. And Celery is more of a roll your own system. Like they're just the back end. They take the payment, so they take the payment info, but they'll wait like 6 months or so, or even a year. And then once you say you're ready, you'll say, okay, I'm ready. Let's charge everyone's cards. So unlike Kickstarter, which charges everyone's cards, you get the money and then you use that money. In Jamie's case, he's already funded the pre-order. He's already funded the print run, but he's using the campaign to build momentum, and he uses Celery for that. So his Celery campaigns are smaller than Kickstarter because he's only appealing to his fan base. Kickstarter has an ecosystem where there are people browsing Kickstarter looking for new board game campaigns. Thank goodness for them. But Celery doesn't have that. So with Celery, it's mainly he's appealing to his own thing. But he can do that because he has tens of thousands of people who are following him, and more power to him. I think that's an incredible model. So that's a way you can do pre-orders. But obviously, again, since he's using Celery for it, he's not charging cards. He's not charging cards until the game is on its way. I believe that's how it is. I don't believe he's charging and then using that money to print. I could be mistaken about that, but it's a really fascinating system. And the most recent, hang on, I got a pet down here. I want to say hi to her.
A pet? Is that one of the Formal Ferrets?
This
It
is one of
is.
the official Formal Ferrets. This is Trillian. Of course, our audience cannot see them because this is an audio podcast, but I just picked up my ferret Trillian, and she's currently sniffing the microphone and sniffing my headphones.
That's adorable. I wanted to.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw, I had my other ferret, Leela, at the start of the
I did.
podcast. Again, that piece of information is not useful for our listeners, but there you go.
That's fine. I
Anyway.
get to enjoy it. This is like it's like Jack Hanna's Animal Planet or whatever.
Yeah. So about those pre-orders, what Jamie did with his most recent pre-order is he actually set it up so that retailers pre-order from him, and then people would buy from the retailers. So if you or I wanted to pre-order the game, we wouldn't do it ourselves. We'd go to our local game store and we'd say, hey, I want a copy of this game. Can you pre-order it for me? And the idea is the store would pre-order a copy for us, but they'd also probably pre-order a couple of extra copies for themselves.
Right.
And again, when you have leverage the way Jamie does, you can get away with stuff like this, but you also need the vision and imagination that Jamie does, because he's the first person to do something like this. He's got really great foresight. Because I know that Stronghold does a pre-order campaign for their games.
Those guys are the worst. Nah, I'm just kidding. Steven's a buddy of both of us.
Yeah. Steven is, when it comes to, like, we talk about really good game designers, but I'm getting more and more of an idea of who's really good at game publishing.
Right.
And Steven is amazing at game publishing. He's got loads of talent. He really, really understands the business. He's very, very good. And so one of the things he does is he does a pre-order system, but he doesn't open up pre-orders until the games are on the boat.
I know, which is brilliant, because you reduce so much disappointment, and you reduce that window of people to start complaining about stuff when they have nothing to even complain about, which happens. You've been there. The Kickstarters will start complaining about your stuff the day the campaign ends. Why don't we have the game yet?
Yeah. It's difficult. People. I find I've been really, really lucky with my backers. I have not yet had backers who have been asking me, "Oh, where's my game? Where's my game?" My backers have been really, really good to me, and I'm very grateful that. And I think part of it is I try to be very proactive with communication. Like I said, my most recent update, there wasn't really any new information in the update, but there was meta information. So I said the game's still at the printer and I'll be at a convention. But the meta information that I'm giving is I'm still here. I'm still, we're working on the game. The game is still coming, but I'm present. And just those two words, I'm present, means so much to backers. I mean, again, as a backer, I want to hear that while the game's at the factory. Like, I haven't forgotten you. I haven't run off. The game is still being made, but we're just waiting for the manufacturer. And this is part of the manufacturing process. It would be great if manufacturers could make a game in 48 hours, but that's not the world we live in. I mean, it takes weeks for them to set things up, to make sure everything's proofed, everything looks good. There's a lot of moving parts that they have to take care of. There's a lot of little details that they have to get right, because when they send it to me, if I find anything wrong, then they have to check everything and go through it all again. So they want to minimize any chance that I'll say, wait a second, this isn't right. So in a lot of ways, I want them to take their time and get it right. And same thing, like, after it gets printed, one of the emails this is my reminder. So all of you listening, please remind me. I need to send an email to my production company and just make sure my printer, and just let them know, hey, if you have the choice between, like, I'm going to be advocating to possibly, mail, like, airship some games. Like, I might need to air freight games out. So I'll have games at conventions coming up to give out to backers and to sell. And those two things are really important. If you're at a convention and you're selling your games, make sure you have a backer pickup option.
Oh, you see that all the time, don't you? Why were people able to buy the game that I paid extra money to have early, and I don't have my copy? And that is why things like that keep me from backing more Kickstarters than I want to.
Oh, it's really something. So anyway, so I'm going to have some conventions coming up, and the schedule said the game, I was going to have the first proof copy already, and I'm still waiting for the first proof copy. So it's entirely possible that, the games will still be on the boat when my conventions happen, which means I got to airship games. And airshipping games is not a happy scenario for a publisher. Stephen Bonacore likens it to buying all your pallet of games, buying it a first-class ticket.
Right.
That's pretty much what you're doing. It is very expensive, but I want to have games that